Hi, this is Troy and Katherine, and we're here today to talk about relationship dynamics. And the first subject that we'd like to talk about is narcissistic abuse and manipulative behavior. Katherine, tell me a little bit about your understanding of where the concept of narcissism came from.
Yeah, well, the word originates from a Greek mythological story of, what was his name?
Narcissus.
Narcissus, who was a hunter and went out hunting, and there was a pond, and saw his reflection in the pond, and got so absorbed with the reflection of himself that he couldn't leave. He couldn't bring himself to pull away from it. And you know what happened in the end?
He fell in love with himself and
Yeah,
eventually he died.
yeah, that's what happened.
So narcissism has become a very big topic in today's world, and it's something that isn't to be taken lightly. And a lot of times we hear people talking about this person or that person as a narcissist, when ultimately what it is manipulative behavior. And I don't think Katherine and I are very fond of labeling people, but we are aware of manipulative behavior and how destructive it can be to the people in our lives. Um, what is narcissism? What is narcissism?
Well, as the story points out, it has something to do with being self-absorbed.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be very, very dangerous. And it actually is a condition. It actually is a mental condition. And there's other mental disorders, such as borderline personality disorders and other disorders that can fall under narcissism. And it's actually a condition that people may need serious help in order to overcome. We would like to start by pointing out some of the main elements of narcissism, tactics that a narcissist would use, and how you might identify that.
Yeah, I think one of the first ones that come to mind has to do with gaslighting, the psychological manipulation causing the person to question whether or not they are sane, or it questions their sanity. And there's a number of ways that manipulators can go about and do this.
Yeah, and it actually arises from was it a 1922 film?
I think it was 44.
1944 film called Gaslight. And the whole film is about a marriage and a man working slowly on his wife to make her think that she was crazy. Um, so that's where the term originated from. And Troy, what is gaslighting? I mean, how does it occur?
Well, I think when we engage with a partner and the partner deflects, there's a number of different behaviors that the partner can do. The partner can deflect, they can create a word salad. Um, Ultimately, they're going to try to put whatever it is you're discussing back onto you, whether it be through projection, through deception, through irrelevant behavior, potentially blaming. Blaming is a large one that manipulators tend to use quite a lot of. Um, can you think of other ways in which gaslighting and causing someone to question their sanity can occur?
Yeah, I think that the narcissist really has an issue with boundaries, doesn't really have a clear understanding of boundaries, and can overstep those boundaries because they're coming from a place of self-protection of the mind, and there's an inability to empathize.
Mm-hmm.
So that boundary might be, they might cross over some lines that you or I or maybe someone else may not be willing to cross over. So a lot of times their words do not match their actions.
Mm-hmm.
They will really play into the victim's story to try to get sympathy.
A lot of times what can also happen is the stories and the way that they've occurred Certain elements of the story can be omitted or rearranged in a way that can cause the person to feel uncertain about the events and how they actually unfolded. Sometimes certain elements can be omitted. Sometimes the sequence of events can be rearranged in such a way as to be able to cause someone to question whether or not the actual occurring took place, or took place in a way in which they understood it to take place, which is really a difficult place to be for someone involved in that relationship, because ultimately the gaslighting can take place over a long period of time. Um, where it's repetitive in terms of the stories that were told and how they're told, causing that person to question themselves and question their worth, question their value. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot of blame, and when someone is constantly telling us, you're to blame, you're the reason we have this problem, it's insidious. And over a period of time, especially if it's someone important to us saying that to us, we might start questioning, am I to blame? And, that's where this series of videos, Troy and I will try to make the distinction between, in a very important thing, which is that self-evaluation where you really take ownership and you say, you own up to the things that you need to be accountable for, or where you messed up. But the difference between that and somebody who is, never taking any ownership, the true narcissist will not take ownership ever. It's constantly somebody else's issue and somebody else's problem, someone else is to blame.
Absolutely. What are the other ways that manipulators can manipulate? Um, one of the ways that we know about is called breadcrumbing. Breadcrumbing has to do with leading someone on, feeding them breadcrumbs as if ultimately, eventually, they may become priority in that person's life, or they may be treated in such a way where they're valued and worth the other person's attention, but they're never given the full amount. They never get the whole loaf of bread.
So they would definitely not be the first one served at the table.
Right.
Probably the
Right.
last, if they were even served at all.
And breadcrumbing feels horrible. It's a situation where you want to be the other person's number one. You want to be treated as if you're valued, as if you are respected and whole. And it's as if the other person has 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And they're leading you on to believe that eventually you could be that number one.
Yeah, you mentioned word salad earlier, and that's a very interesting technique where a narcissist will be working from the mind, not from the heart. And when we have very heartful conversations, empathetic conversations, compassionate conversations, then they're very fruitful and we get somewhere. But if someone is only operating from their heads and you're trying to have a good conversation about really going there together and figuring things out, and they just keep throwing in that word salad, they're suddenly talking about nonsensical things or topics that don't even relate to what you're going through. It could be purposeful to deflect the attention away from the present topic, or it could be non-intentional where that person cannot deal with their own processing of their own emotions, and so that's just what they do. They let the mind spin and they're off and running and over here, and it's like, what are you talking about? So it's the inability really to get to the point and to go there in a very genuine, loving way with another human being.
It's irrelevant behavior. We're having a conversation and we're talking about a specific issue, and all of a sudden what's being relayed by the other person is completely irrelevant. or done so in a way that causes us to question what's actually being discussed, what the actual issue is. It's irrelevant behavior.
Yeah. Where might lack of boundaries come in, where people, they might do things, show up suddenly, intrude. They have no boundaries. They're trying to do behavior that results in them winning or them getting what they want. It could be nice or mean behavior. It could be an action that is very, but it's not appropriate.
I think you hit a big point. A narcissistic relationship feels competitive. It's not cooperative or collaborative. It's a competitive relationship where the narcissist, in order for them to maintain their sense of superiority, it's a hierarchical relationship where mentally it's important for them to feel superior to their partner. And it's the myriad of ways that they go about destroying or attempting to destroy and control their partner's personality and their partner's worth by continually expressing their own grandiosity or delusions of grandiosity in order for them to continue to feel superior.
They might even go into victimization. They'll swing from either side into either poor me, and the victim, therefore you need to give me all this attention so I could be seen, or they'll go to I will be seen and you will, kind of that strong energy of winning and trying to manipulate or trying to power over you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there are definitely other traits that fall under narcissism. And, the sad thing about it is that sometimes it just boils down to a childhood in which a person was bullied quite a bit and had to learn some kind of way of standing up for themselves, some kind of way of pushing through, of proving themselves. Maybe they have parents that never fully approved of them, or maybe their parents continually manipulated them, and so forth. And so in a sad way, sometimes the narcissists, they don't even know that they are a narcissist or that they are participating in narcissistic behavior.
Absolutely. And it's also a trick. It's also a trick in that there are those that are truly manipulators that understand by telling you a story in which they are a victim that they can garner your empathy or your sympathy. And that's in actuality what they want, is to, for lack of a better term, feed off of your emotional energy and the sympathy and the empathy and the compassion that you have for them.
And we talked about this, how sometimes it's the empathetic person who gets trapped in this. Sometimes it is, which can turn into codependency because you're trying to rescue that person. You're trying to make them feel loved, help them feel loved. You're the one always saying, I'm sorry. They will never say, I'm sorry, that it's me. I need to do some work on myself. Let me take a deep look. Never. It will. The problem is that the empath or the sensitive being might sometimes be more susceptible to feeding that narcissist, giving them what they want, because they're trying to help them. They're trying to help them through this. But it's a vicious trap, and it's you'll never succeed. The only way that someone can break through their narcissism is to get help with that. Seek a professional, really learn about it, really own it, and see that they maybe one failed relationship after another, numerous marriages, all kinds of things. And at a certain point they might go, wow, maybe something's going on here with me. Typically that doesn't happen with the narcissist, but in this, we're going to do a series of videos where we continue to talk about these traits. And then we want to take a look at self-evaluation, where we take a good look at ourselves and make sure we're not calling the kettle black, that we are not, participating in those types of behaviors or enabling somebody to continue to act that way. And in the end, there's some decisions we have to make about either ignore that other person and their behavior, continue to try to fix them, or to move away from that situation. And so these are videos that will be coming up in the future, but we just wanted to get that initial introduction of the topic, because at SpiritQuest we do numerous sessions on relationship dynamics and how to support each other in a loving, kind relationship. And so we invite you to tune in next time for what we have to offer.